Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J Moore Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your questions for our guest or myself or comments into the comment section. You'll see me turn my head from time to time to check and see, and we'll talk about it on the show live. Today's guest is the Grand Poobah of Maryland Restaurants, CEO and President of the Restaurant Association of Maryland. My guest is Marshall Weston. The association offers guidance, advocacy, and training, and those are just a small part of what the association does, not only for restaurateurs, but for you also, the consumer. It all trickles down to benefit the consumer and the restaurateur. So let's bring in Marshall.
Hi, Dara. That is quite the introduction. I feel embarrassed. The Grand Poobah, is that what you said? I am one of these people. I'm just a normal guy, like many Americans. I started working in restaurants when I was 16 years old. I worked my way up to the general manager by the time I was 21. I went back to school, did some things in my 20s, and landed here at the association a little over 20 years ago. And apparently I've just hung out longer than everybody else, and now I'm the CEO. So, but thank you for that nice introduction.
It was my pleasure. So other than doing the show today, what else is on your plate to do?
Generally, I have a lot of what I call just dealing with the issue of the day. And that could come from our membership. It could come from the media. It could come from a non-member restaurant. And it's almost always somebody has a problem. I think that the Restaurant Association, it's just our number one thing to do. We help people when they have a problem. And it could be what seems to be the silliest of things, and it could be the most important things. For example, we've had a member restaurant that had a small fire and needed help getting to the health department right away so that they could get the problem, clearly they had the problem fixed, but then to get reopened in a timely fashion because it was a Friday morning. They didn't want to lose a weekend of business. We assisted with that. And sometimes it's just as simple as getting the right contact at a bank that we all do business with or something along those lines. So we are definitely a resource. But my calendar is busy, but the calendar itself is never full. You got to leave a lot of time in there for these odds and ends.
Like me, I'm an odds and ends.
No, this was planned in advance, so that's always great.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not high on the priority list of what's happening both in the government and the restaurant world. So, but I appreciate you doing the show. I remember from my period of time, just to let people know that I had been on not the executive board, I'd been on the Restaurant Association of Maryland's Education Foundation Board. So I learned quite a bit in the 5 or 6 years that I was there. And I remember being at a breakfast and the National Restaurant Association, the woman who headed it up, brought up the point, and I don't think people realize that other than the government, restaurants is the second largest employer in the country. And there isn't everybody that I know, only a handful of people would not fit into this category, have worked in a restaurant at one point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing good? Did I learn?
You did.
I did. Okay. So in Maryland, how many restaurants do we have?
So just here in the state of Maryland, we have over 10,000 food service establishments. And we use that term food service establishments because that's what the comptroller uses when they are just dealing with all entities that serve food. So if you are going to an independent restaurant, maybe a cafe and a hotel, maybe a small deli or cafe in a hospital. But we have over 10,000 food service establishments here in Maryland alone, and 200,000 people work in those food service establishments across the state. So, Dara, you are correct. We are one of the top employers in the country. I think healthcare is up there as well. I'm not sure if we're number two, but if we're number three, it would be healthcare that's ahead of us. But we certainly we have a lot of impact on every neighborhood and every community, and certainly we are a robust tax base, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I know that with the Restaurant Association in Maryland, that there are people who work within the local government and federal government to work out policies and get things done for the restaurants.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that was very important. And I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room, COVID, which hit everybody, really changed the landscape on restaurants. What do you think some of the major changes were now that we've sort of recouped?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I notice, and I think everybody now takes advantage of and forgets how they got to this point, and it had to do with COVID, is this idea that restaurants have to, no matter who you are, have to offer takeout. There are plenty of restaurants out there that were full service, independent, some were chains that never even considered offering takeout. It wasn't part of their business model. There was no expectation from the public. And I can name all kinds of different restaurants that really 5 or 6 years ago we would say it makes no sense for them to do takeout. Yet takeout has become a significant part of every restaurant's business model. And I'm talking specifically about full service, those that didn't typically offer it. And just to throw a couple names out there, and I'm not promoting any one over another, but I think back 7 years ago, I'm not sure that Texas Roadhouse even did any takeout. I don't know for sure, but I know where I live in Carroll County, the one store there has a whole section now that is dedicated to dealing with takeout orders, and they seem to be doing fairly well. So that's number one from what I see, is that if you're not doing takeout now as a full service operation, you should probably consider it and find a way, because I think it's something that the public wants. And clearly there's an opportunity for an additional revenue stream and additional employees that you can bring on to take care of that takeout.
Well, I think the some of the restaurants, because I did work for a particular restaurant for a number of years doing their PR, and I understood their point of view that the food they made didn't transport well. So by the
Mm-hmm.
time they got it home, and it's not to say that they're not doing it now, and there's so many delivery services available to people to get their food.
Right.
But I think on some of this, you know, me as a consumer, well, I cook, so I'm fine. To me, the joy is to go sit in the restaurant. During COVID, we didn't have that opportunity, though we start doing outdoor dining, and that was one of the benefits, if you want to give benefit to COVID. And wasn't there something with carry out alcohol? Was there, did they
Sure.
not?
Yeah, that was one of the things the Restaurant Association really pushed for, to help restaurants be able to make it through COVID. Right, the opportunity was there to, as people were getting takeout orders and could not dine in person. There was that barrier that they couldn't order alcohol, and many people were interested in supporting restaurants and would be more than willing to be able to purchase alcoholic beverages with their meal order, rather than going to one of the stores or making another trip. So that was certainly a good thing. And Dara, you bring up a really good point, is that with all the changes of COVID, I think we did learn that we really did, as a society, we really did miss going out to eat and being in person and being waited on, and just commingling with others. That was an important thing that we didn't realize how much it was just part of the fabric of our society until it was taken away from us. So absolutely, I think that even though we have a lot of takeout and a lot of delivery and a lot of options for meals nowadays, there is still a very large place for going to a full service restaurant and being waited on and having an experience. And that's why we continue to have restaurants in all kinds of segments continuing to open.
Well, it's part of our comfort, and I think the younger people, there's such a shift in fast casual too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had the fellow on from Drexel's food program, and we talked about what he saw as the future as restaurants, and he was saying fast casual is going to be going, higher end special occasion restaurants, but he felt that somewhere in that middle ground, that's where the struggle was going to be. And I don't know how you feel about that. But
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. I think that there's, as is all things in life, there are these ups and downs, and there's just these trends, so to speak. There are things that are popular and very, important to people at one point in time, and then all of a sudden they move on and they're not important. They go back to what they used to do. But I will say this, that young people today are certainly much more diverse in their exploring of different cultures and ethnicities and the food that comes with that and those experiences. And they really do drive a lot of what young people want to see on a menu, and why they patronize some of these fast casual and quick service operations. But it would not surprise me that as that group gets older, we're going to see those types of cuisines in more sit-down restaurants, as those people are looking for more of a dining experience coupled with that food. So I think I'm always upbeat about restaurants, because even coming out of COVID, we had a lot of restaurants that closed because of whatever the reason might be. But there is always a family or a person that is willing to come in on the back end and has this dream of owning their own restaurant or adding another restaurant to their portfolio. So we continue to remain strong here in Maryland, and certainly, the diversity of restaurants is compared to none as far as our options here.
so some of what's going on at the Restaurant Association of Maryland? I tell people about ProStart. I'm just throwing it out to you.
Mhm.
And scholarships, and what you do, lobbying for the restaurants, classes. These are all available. So you're the expert. Talk about education services available to members of the Restaurant Association.
So I think what we are most known for is our government affairs efforts and our lobbying and our advocacy. But I'm going to come back to that, because sometimes that government stuff can be boring. But on the other side of how we just kind of help restaurants with their day-to-day operations and how they grow, we've got lots of programs and services that many of our members take advantage of. And think about it this way: as a independent restaurateur that is busy, day in and day out, has one location and it is their livelihood, we're able to take lots of independent restaurants and put them into a big buying group and get them some buying power that the larger restaurant groups take advantage of. So, we have lots of programs when it comes to restaurant things. Education is a big component of what we do. As you mentioned, Dara, we have the food safety and the alcohol awareness classes that employees need to take. We offer those. We have programs that kind of help people move their way up in the industry with different types of educational pieces. And as recently as this week, earlier this week, the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council approved our restaurant manager apprenticeship program. So over the next several weeks and months, you're going to see more from the Restaurant Association as we try to encourage young people to take a career path into our industry. We now are going to have an apprenticeship program that over the course of 2 years, you can learn what you need to learn on the job and with some educational components, and work your way up into management, which can be a springboard for general manager, for owning your own business. And as I mentioned right out of the gate, so many of us worked in restaurants as a young person. All the skills that you learn in restaurants, you can take on to your next career or your next job. And I say it all the time. The things I learned working in a restaurant, that's the reason I'm such a great CEO. It's not the things that, no offense to, education in
Penn State.
schools. Well,
Right.
yes, Penn State University. I love that. But, the work I did in restaurants was great. And it did help me along the way. So we help, work with employees and better educate them. And then the final piece is the government affairs and the advocacy. Oftentimes, lawmakers have very good intentions, but they don't understand the unintended consequences of maybe a piece of legislation or something that they're trying to do, and how that will negatively impact restaurants and customers. So that's where we come in. We educate lawmakers on how restaurants operate, how employees deal with things, what customers want. And that is really where we do a lot of work to ensure that restaurants are set up to succeed and that customers can continue patronizing restaurants.
Well, part of this, as I said earlier on in the show, I was the member on the Restaurant Association of Maryland Education Foundation, very involved in the ProStart program, ProStart.
Mm-hmm.
And I even mentored Carver for a couple of years.
Yep.
And explain ProStart.
It's a high school curriculum and program for, I think we have about 75 schools, high schools across the state that use this curriculum and take advantage of the program, where it prepares young people for careers in culinary arts, baking and pastry, and restaurant management. So, we have juniors and seniors out there that, as part of their regular high school curriculum, are learning about restaurants and how to run a restaurant and the culinary side of what they do. And many of these kids have aspirations to own their own business. Some want to work at the big resorts around the country, or there are lots of different ways that you can go with a career in hospitality and restaurants. So we get young people started early, and we capture that passion, and we
I'm
help to get
watching
them.
on the screen because I'm sort of losing your sound, but it's coming up in text on my screen, so we're fine.
Okay,
The
we're
video
fine.
will be fine. I don't know what it is.
It's
Technology.
It's never perfect.
Go there. I happen to notice, that you have taken and made a sincere effort to list ethnic restaurants, those that are Black owned, and that you're also doing May 21st for women in the industry. It's the Women of Hospitality Conference at the American Vision Museum.
Yep.
It's free parking, breakfast, lunch, a cocktail reception, a great way for women who are in the hospitality field to connect, to network, to share, to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that if any of you are listening and you are a woman in the hospitality field, go to the Restaurant Association of Maryland.com. It is a .com, or is it a
Yes.
.org?
Nope.
.com. Restaurant Association of Maryland.com. No, it's under MarylandRestaurants.com.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
folks.
there you go. I was going to correct you, but you got it. Yep.
MarylandRestaurants.com, folks. Everything is coming up for connections for the Restaurant Association of Maryland in the comments section. So go to the website, check it out, see everything that they are doing. And there's a dining guide, there are gift certificates that you can buy. There's the gala that you can support, which I've gone to a number of years.
Dara, can I plug the gift certificate program just for a quick second?
You can do it for 5 seconds.
5 seconds. The gift certificates that the Restaurant Association of Maryland sells are redeemable at over 300 different restaurants. So maybe you don't know what restaurant somebody likes, but you want to give a gift with lots of different options. That's what makes our gift certificate so great. And it supports the local restaurants here in Maryland, and they get every cent of that gift certificate. The Restaurant Association does not make any money off of that gift certificate program.
So there's so many benefits for the consumer there. And the association does its own restaurant week. Am I correct?
Yes, in September. Yes, again, just highlighting the restaurants that are part of our community.
Okay. And I'm looking, there's a lot of notes. When we were talking about the Women of Hospitality Conference, next week I'm having, it's Chauncey's, but it's Melanie Kerr, who's a chef, be on next week. And she does catering. She was the chef at Movable Feast. So, and I've had Kat Smith on, who's one of your speakers. She's been on the show twice. So people, women, if you're in the industry or considering it, it's a great opportunity to go network. So I'll push that along.
Thank you.
And I'm just trying to see, what did I want to say? Okay. Well, let's go to the final questions. Marshall, if you wake up tomorrow with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
I'm not really, I'm pretty self-aware, so I don't focus on like, hey, I need to do something new. I just wish, well, two things that I've been focusing on that I will answer this by saying, boy, I wish I was significantly better. Two things. I wish I could play the guitar significantly better. And I wish that my Spanish was significantly better, but those are two things that I just work on a little bit every day. But I don't, my wife would tell you that sometimes and oftentimes I'm a man of action. So if I decide I want to do something, then I just go do it. So I don't let anything sit there and be like, boy, I wish I could have done. I just go and do it and see how it goes.
Okay. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, without question, it would have been to buy as much Apple stock at 50 cents a share that you possibly could have. I mean, it's over time, like you just live and you think about what's going on right now today, and you think to yourself, oh, that can't possibly go any higher or be any better, or you just can't see far enough into the future to realize like how many different things you're going to be exposed to and how those changes are going to affect you. So I don't really think about like that too much. The life I lived kind of made me who I am right here today. So I probably would say get into more things. I should have started playing guitar earlier, worked on Spanish more earlier. I would have traveled more earlier. But that wasn't in the cards, and I'm trying to make up for lost time. But buying Apple at 50 cents a share, that's certainly something all of us probably wish we would have done, right?
Right. Whereas you're not a chef and a cook, but you worked in a restaurant. And if you worked in a restaurant and you manage, the times that you had to get behind the line. So I know you've cooked.
Yep.
Somewhere along the line that you've cooked. Do you have a culinary fail that you're willing to share?
I'm not sure I call it a fail, but my family would call it a fail. Like there is, and it's a difference of opinion is what I would call it. So without getting into like extreme details, I prefer a dish that I make a certain way, and it has a certain texture that is perfect, in my opinion. My wife and my children don't agree with that, and they would like it changed a different way or something like that. So, and I made that change the one time, and I thought it was awful, and then that was my fail. Like I was like, why was I changing something that I liked? You know, but other than that, if you're cooking, if you're baking, if you're managing, if you're doing anything, we're making mistakes and we're failing all the time. So that's kind of that's the learning process. But I can't think of anything that I screwed up so bad that it upset me. Um, I do have one for my brother that I won't say on air, but he was very upset.
Okay. And what's the best bite you had all week?
I made let's see. No, I'm going to change that. I was going to talk about something I made, but I forgot. I was at, am I allowed to plug restaurants and
Sure,
dishes
sure.
here? So I'm not sure how long this menu is going to be out there because I think there's spring menus coming. But I had lunch at Hudson Coastal yesterday. It's in Maple Lawn, and I had the blackened, per the recommendation of the owner, the blackened ahi tuna taco. 3 tacos. I generally don't eat my entire lunch. I eat every bite. So that's the best thing I've had this week by far.
Great, great. What didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Unfortunately, the question I get on a regular basis has to do with the tip credits. And we don't need to get all bogged down in that because it is a big, it's a policy issue. But I will say this, servers and bartenders across the state overwhelmingly do not want the elimination of the tip credit. And there have been several times that legislation has been introduced and there's an activist group trying to eliminate the tip credit. But to take all that aside, servers and bartenders do extremely well in terms of their pay model, the flexibility that they have in their work schedules, and they don't want this change. So we spend a lot of time answering questions and dealing with, why is so-and-so trying to eliminate the tip credit? We like things the way they are. I make twice the minimum wage. I make 3 times the minimum wage. People continue to tip well, and servers and bartenders don't want that to change. So that's for us. Kind of goal number one is that we want to make sure that these employees' voices are heard and that lawmakers know that the current tipping model works and there's no reason to change it. So that is a question I get a lot, and just throwing it out there for your viewers that the Restaurant Association will help servers and bartenders to make their voices heard and and keep the current tipping system in place because that's what they want.
Okay. It's a very touchy subject, and we could have probably spent the whole show on it. So
I generally spend a
appreciate you
half hour a
bringing it
day
up.
talking to somebody about it. Yes.
Yes, I appreciate that. Everyone, it is the Restaurant Association in Maryland. The website is restaurantsinmaryland.com.
No, MarylandRestaurants.com.
MarylandRestaurants.com. Sorry.
You can Google us too. We'll be found pretty easily.
Right. MarylandRestaurants.com. And I'm just sitting here looking on the screen. Marshall, I know your days are full of a lot, so I truly appreciate you sharing your time and me cornering you in Ocean City. just to confirm it. So truly appreciate it. All the best, the holiday season coming up. And thanks for looking out for our restaurants.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. And everyone, I want to talk about next week's show. My guest will be Chef Melanie Kerr, a graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology and Le Cordon Bleu Culinary Institute in California. Her company, Chauncey's, is a Black woman-owned event planning and catering company. She is a former executive chef of Movable Feast, where she led the kitchen team and volunteers through meal production and delivery to Baltimore citizens battling HIV and AIDS and terminal illness. You can check her out at eatmorechauncey's.com. They do quite a bit, personal chef, pop-ups, everything's going on. She's pretty amazing. I got to meet her probably before COVID and was taken back by her energy and her creativity. So do tune in next week. I want to congratulate one of our former guests, Sheena Davis, the Buttermonger. You can go back and find that show. She was in Paris and she was inducted into the prestigious the Guilde de Fromage during her recent stay there. Feel free to dig into our video archives of past shows. You will see the interview with Sheena amongst the other 186 episodes of the Food Enthusiast. We're coming up to 200, and I'm still here. Thank God. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at food@jmoreliving.com or Instagram at Dara Cooks. All shows are immediately archived in video form on JMore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. May your plates always, always remain full. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll join us next Thursday.